I'm staring at my husband's face, and I don't recognize him anymore. "Mom, it's done. The apartment downtown is yours now. Tomorrow, we kick her out." He's standing in our kitchen, holding up his phone like he just won the lottery. His face is flushed, that excited, triumphant look he gets when he closes a deal. Except this isn't a business deal. This is our life. This is my mother-in-law. This is us. I set down my coffee mug slowly, very slowly, because something in my chest just cracked open, and I need to make sure I can still breathe before I respond. "What do you mean, kick her out?" My voice sounds strange to my own ears, thin, distant, like it's coming from underwater. But let me back up, because this moment, right here in our kitchen on a Tuesday morning in October, didn't come out of nowhere. It's the crescendo of something that's been building for months. And to understand how we got here, you need to know what our life looked like before everything went sideways. 3 months ago, things were good. Actually, they were great. The kind of great where you feel almost guilty for how lucky you are, like the universe is going to remember you owe it something. We live in Westchester County, in this beautiful split level we bought 4 years ago, with a down payment we scraped together from my 401k and Brandon's bonuses. Brandon works in commercial real estate. He's damn good at it too. Makes solid money, 6 figures most years. I'm a graphic designer, freelance, which means I have flexibility, but also means income is unpredictable. That was always the trade-off we accepted. He brought stability, I brought creativity, and the ability to pick up kids early from school. We have 2 kids, Emma, who's 8, and Lucas, who's 5. The kind of kids who actually like being around their parents, at least most of the time. Emma's obsessed with art. Wonder where she got that. And Lucas is one of those sweet boys who still hugs you without being asked. Our house smells like their breakfast cereal and the candle I keep burning in the living room. Life and breath from Patty Wax. $40 a candle, and Brandon jokes about it, but he never says I can't buy them. On weekends, we do the normal suburban thing. Farmer's market on Saturday morning, Emma's soccer games on Sunday. We have friends, not best friends, but real ones. We host people for dinner. We're the kind of couple that looks solid from the outside. And we really were. My mother-in-law, Carol, had been living with us for 14 months when Brandon made that announcement. She moved in after she slipped on ice outside her condo in the city and broke her hip. She was recovering, needing help, and our guest room was sitting empty anyway. Brandon didn't even really ask me about it. He just told me, "Mom's coming to stay for a few weeks while she heals." That was what he said. A few weeks. Those few weeks turned into months. Physical therapy took longer than expected. Then there were complications. Then she was doing so much better that it seemed cruel to kick her out just as she was getting on her feet. And somewhere in that progression, I stopped pushing back. I stopped suggesting timelines. I just accepted it. Carol is a lot. She's 68, sharp as a tack, and she has opinions about everything. How I load the dishwasher, the way I parent, my career choice, which she's never quite understood. "You could be doing something real," she said to me more than once, meaning something with a salary and a title and a corner office. But she's also Brandon's mother, and he adores her, always has. He's an only child, and there's this particular intensity to that bond. So I learned to work around her. I learned which mornings she liked to have the kitchen to herself. I learned not to serve her certain foods because she had opinions about them. I learned to smile and nod, and keep my own home feeling like hers too. And honestly, it wasn't terrible. She helped with the kids. She made excellent pot roast. She and Emma bonded over sewing. Carol taught her how to do basic stitches. There were moments that were actually nice. But there was also this low-level tension in the house that I couldn't quite name, like a sound that's just barely at the edge of your hearing, annoying but impossible to pinpoint. Brandon started spending more time at the office, not because of work necessarily, but because the office was quiet. I could feel it. He'd come home later and there'd be this little sigh when he walked in and heard Carol's TV in the living room, or her voice calling out a question from the kitchen. "We need to talk about a timeline," I said to him one night, about 6 months after Carol arrived. We were in bed, lights off, but I was very awake. "What do you mean?" He was already half asleep. "Your mom, she's doing great now. Her hip is basically healed. Maybe it's time we talked about her getting her own place again." There was a long silence. "She doesn't have a lot of money, Jess," he said finally. "The medical bills ate up most of her savings, and the condo was too much for her anyway." "Okay, but that's not really our problem to solve, is it?" He rolled away from me. "She's my mother." "I know she is, but Brandon, we can't just— It's our house, our space, our family's space." "I'm not having this conversation right now," he said, and I heard the finality in his voice. So I didn't push it. Not then. But the apartment downtown, that came up about 6 weeks ago. Brandon came home one evening in September, and he was buzzing with energy the way he gets when he's closed a major deal. He found me in the kitchen prepping dinner. "I want to buy an investment property," he said without preamble. "Okay," I said carefully. "Like, in addition to this house?" "Yeah, downtown. It's a one-bedroom, really nice unit in that new development on 5th. It's going to appreciate like crazy. Smart investment." I put down my knife. "Brandon, we just started paying down the home equity line of credit." "I know, but this is different. This is an investment. It'll cash flow." "With what money?" "I've got a guy at the bank. We can make it work." I could feel it then, that small crack opening up. Because I knew him. I knew that tone of voice. That was his, "I've already decided and I'm just telling you as a courtesy" tone. "How much?" I asked. 2.2. $2.2 million. I sat down. We talked about it for an hour. He had numbers, cap rates and appreciation projections, and all the things that sound logical when you layer enough spreadsheets on top of a bad idea. And maybe it wasn't a bad idea. Maybe it was a fine investment. But it felt fast. It felt like he wasn't really listening to my concerns. It felt like he was already in his head, already picturing this new thing he was going to acquire. "Let me think about it," I said finally, because I didn't have the energy to fight about it that night. He bought the apartment 3 weeks later. He didn't ask again. He just did it. The financing went through, the inspection happened, the closing occurred, all while I was handling Emma's school fundraiser and Lucas's ear infection, and a freelance project that was eating my brain. One day, I was signing mortgage documents for a building we didn't need, and then the next day, we owned a second property. I was angry, properly angry, but I didn't know how to express it without sounding unreasonable. He was right. It was a good investment. He'd used his own credit, mostly. Our household finances were still intact. I had no actual logical argument against it, just this deep, gut-level feeling that something was wrong with how he'd made the decision. That's when things started to shift. That's when he and Carol started talking. I noticed it at dinner one night. They were huddled together, speaking quietly, and when I asked what they were discussing, Brandon said, "Just helping Mom with some financial stuff." Then, a few days later, I overheard them in the living room. Carol was saying something about a fresh start, and Brandon was saying, "It's perfect for you. You'll love it." "Brandon?" I came in, trying to sound casual. "What's perfect?" They both looked up. Carol looked almost guilty. Brandon looked, I don't know, determined? "Mom's going to move into the downtown apartment," he said. I blinked. "The investment property?" "It's not really an investment if we're not renting it out," he said with this little shrug, like the logic was obvious. "And Mom needs a place. This solves everything." "It solves everything for who?" I asked quietly. He didn't answer. He just looked at me like I was being difficult, and Carol suddenly became very interested in the pattern on the couch cushion. That was when I realized he'd already decided this too. The apartment wasn't an investment property. It was his mother's exit strategy, and I was the one being exited. And now, on this Tuesday morning in October, with his phone held up like a trophy, he's finally telling me what we both already knew was coming. "What do you mean, kick her out?" I ask again, because I need to hear him say it. I need the actual words. "Well, not kick her out like that," he says, and he has the audacity to laugh a little. "We're giving her 2 weeks to pack. The apartment is beautiful, Jess. She's going to be so happy there." I'm still holding my coffee mug. It's gone cold. "Did you talk to me about this?" I ask. I'm talking to you now. No. Did you ask me if this was okay? If we could afford it? If I wanted a $2.2 million apartment for your mother? You were busy, he says, and this right here, is when my chest really starts to hurt. I didn't want to stress you out. You didn't want to stress me out, I repeat slowly. So instead you made a massive financial decision without me and just told Carol she could move into her new place. It's not a massive decision. It's actually perfect. She gets her independence back. We get our space back. Everyone wins. Everyone wins, I echo. He's looking at me like I'm being unreasonable, like I should be grateful, like this is a gift he's giving me, getting his mother out of my hair. And maybe that's what he actually thinks. Maybe he genuinely believed he was solving a problem I'd mentioned once or twice over the past few months, back when I thought I was being subtle about how much I wanted my house back. But this wasn't the way to do it. Not without talking to me. Not without asking. Not without treating me like I'm an actual partner in this marriage, instead of just someone whose name is also on the mortgage. I need some time, I say finally. Time for what? To process this. To think about what it means. What do you mean, what it means? It means Mom moves out tomorrow, and our life goes back to normal. But nothing is going back to normal. I can feel it. This isn't the beginning of getting better. This is the beginning of getting worse. And I don't know yet how much worse it's going to get. I sit in my car in the Whole Foods parking lot and call my divorce attorney. It's Wednesday morning, and I haven't slept properly since Brandon made his announcement yesterday. I've been lying in bed next to him, listening to him breathe, feeling like a stranger in my own marriage. At one point around 3 in the morning, I got up and went to Lucas's room just to watch him sleep, to remind myself that at least this part of my life is still real. Margaret, it's Jessica Hartwell. I need an appointment, today if possible. Margaret Chen is excellent, expensive, but excellent. She came highly recommended from a friend whose sister went through a messy split in Greenwich. I've had her number saved in my phone for 6 months, ever since things started feeling wrong. I never thought I'd actually use it. Jessica, hi. Is everything okay? She picks up on something in my voice immediately. No, I don't think so. Can I come in? I'm in her office by 11. It's in White Plains, in a sleek building with floor-to-ceiling windows and art that probably costs more than my car. Margaret is exactly what you'd want in a divorce lawyer. Sharp, composed, but with this underlying warmth that makes you feel like she actually gives a shit about your life instead of just your retainer. I tell her everything. The apartment. The decision-making without me. The way Brandon just announced it like I was a child who'd been given an unexpected gift instead of a partner whose voice was being systematically erased from our own life. I tell her about the way he looked at me when I questioned him, like I was being unreasonable, like I was the problem. Has he been unfaithful? She asks, making notes. Not that I know of, but honestly, at this point, I don't know what I don't know. Any substance abuse? Gambling? Other financial irregularities? Not that I've seen. He's been making major decisions without me, and he seems to genuinely not understand why that's a problem. She sets down her pen. I'm going to be direct with you, Jessica. You came here because part of you knows this marriage might be ending, but I need to know, do you actually want to end it, or are you looking for leverage to change his behavior? I haven't let myself ask that question directly until this moment. My throat tightens. I don't know, I say finally. I wanted him to see what he was doing. I wanted him to understand that treating me like I don't matter has consequences, and I don't know if divorce is what I want, or if it's just the only way to make him hear me. Then before we file anything, you need to have a direct conversation with him. Not about the apartment, not about Carol, about whether this marriage is something you both want to save. I nod, but something in me is already dead. I can feel it. That night, Brandon comes home at 6. He's in a good mood. Carol's move is set for tomorrow, and he's already talking about how nice it'll be to have our space back. The casual, possessive pronoun makes me want to scream. We need to talk, I say. Actually talk. He's loosening his tie, already moving toward the kitchen. About what? About us. about whether there's an us anymore. That stops him. He turns to look at me, and for the first time in weeks, I see something like concern cross his face. What are you talking about? I'm talking about the fact that you made a $2.2 million financial decision without my input. I'm talking about the fact that you promised your mother an apartment without asking me. I'm talking about the fact that you don't seem to see me as a partner in this marriage. You see me as someone whose job is to make your life run smoothly. That's not fair, he says. Isn't it? When was the last time you asked me what I wanted? When was the last time you made a decision that affected both of us by actually talking to me first? He sits down on the couch. Jessica, I've been trying to make things better. I've been trying to solve problems. You've been trying to solve problems by yourself, which means you're not actually solving them. You're creating new ones. Like, you thought buying an apartment for your mother was going to make me happy, but what it actually did was make me feel like you don't respect me, like my opinion doesn't matter. Your opinion matters, he says, but there's no conviction in it. Does it? Because I didn't get a vote on the apartment. I didn't get a vote on your mother living here for 14 months. I didn't get a vote on any of it. He's quiet for a long moment. I think I need to stay in the city for a while, he says finally. I'll take a hotel. We both need some space to think about this. It's such a Brandon solution. Just remove himself from the problem instead of sitting with it, instead of actually fighting for us. Okay, I say quietly. He leaves the next morning while Carol is being moved downtown. I watch her supervisor from the moving company direct the workers. Carol doesn't make eye contact with me. She knows. Somehow, she knows that this is about more than just her leaving. Brandon texts me the address of his hotel, the Ritz in Manhattan. Very on brand, very expensive, very I'm thinking about myself right now. The first few days, I function on autopilot. I get Emma to school, I pick Lucas up, I make dinner. I don't cry, which surprises me. I thought there would be crying. Instead, there's this cold clarity, this sense that something I thought was permanent was actually very fragile. On Friday, I get a text from Margaret. Did you speak with Brandon? Yes, he's staying at a hotel in the city. I think he's processing. Has he responded to any attempt at communication since? I check my phone. He's sent logistical texts. Can you get Emma's soccer uniform washed? And my dry cleaning is ready at the place on Main. No actual communication. No apology. No attempt to understand. No, I text back. I need to file a motion to freeze assets, Margaret writes. It's a protective measure. Given the recent large purchase without spousal consent and his current absence from the home, we need to protect your interests. This doesn't mean divorce is inevitable, but it does mean we're being smart. She files the motion on Monday. I find out Brandon knows because he calls me, and his voice is ice. What the hell is this? He demands. A motion to freeze assets? Jessica, are you serious right now? I'm protecting myself. From what? From me? I'm your husband. A husband who just spent $2 million on an apartment for his mother without talking to me. A husband who's been making major financial decisions without my input. A husband who's currently living in a hotel instead of trying to fix our marriage. I was giving you space like you asked. I didn't ask for space. I asked for you to see me, to actually see what you've been doing. There's a long silence. I talked to a lawyer too, he says finally. He says you're being aggressive and unreasonable. He says the apartment is my separate property and I have every right to do what I want with it. Your lawyer is telling you what you want to hear, I say. My lawyer is trying to protect our family. Our family? You're the one threatening divorce. No, Brandon. You threatened our marriage the moment you started treating me like I don't matter. He hangs up. The next week is a blur of document preparation, financial disclosures, and the kind of administrative hell that nobody tells you about when you get married. Margaret files for full physical custody of the children. Brandon's lawyer responds with a request for 50-50 custody and supervised visitation for me, trying to paint me as the unreasonable one. The motion to freeze assets is granted on Wednesday. Margaret calls me with the news. The judge sided with us, she says. He noted the recent major purchase without spousal consent and the marital discord as justification for the freeze. Brandon can't liquidate, transfer, or use marital assets without court approval. I should feel triumphant. Instead, I feel exhausted. That night, Brandon shows up at the house. He's been drinking. I can tell by the way he's moving, careful and deliberate. He's also angry in a way I've never seen before. "You froze my assets," he says, not bothering with hello. "My lawyer froze our assets to protect our family's interests." "Our family? You're destroying our family. You're taking my kids away from me." "I'm not taking anything. I'm ensuring that you can't make unilateral decisions that affect their lives." He looks at me like he doesn't recognize me. Maybe he doesn't. Maybe the woman he married was someone who would just accept whatever he decided, and the woman I've become, the one who has a voice and boundaries, is a stranger to him. "I don't want a divorce," he says. "I don't either," I tell him, "but I want a marriage where I matter, where my opinion counts, where you ask me before you spend $2 million on your mother." The apartment was an investment. Stop. Just stop. You know it wasn't. You know it was always meant to be Carol's place. You know that you were using it as a solution to a problem, me, without actually addressing the real problem, which is that we're not communicating. He sits down heavily on the couch. "I don't know how to fix this," he says quietly. "I know. And that's the problem. You don't know how to fix it because you don't actually see it as something that needs fixing. You think the solution is to make me happy by removing sources of friction, but what you're actually doing is removing me from the picture." For the first time since this started, he looks like he might actually understand. "I think we should try counseling," I say. "Real counseling. Not the kind where we go once and then pretend everything's fine. The kind where we actually do the work." "Okay," he says. "Okay, I'll do it." We find a marriage counselor through Margaret's recommendation, a woman named Dr. Reeves, who specializes in high-conflict relationships. Our first session is the following Tuesday. It's in her office in Stamford, decorated in calming grays and blues. There are plants everywhere, and it smells like lavender and coffee. She asks us to sit on opposite ends of a long couch, which somehow makes the distance between us feel very literal. "Tell me why you're here," she says. Brandon goes first. He talks about feeling like he was trying to help, trying to solve problems, and feeling attacked for it. He talks about the apartment being an investment and a solution to his mother's housing situation. He doesn't mention that he made the decision without me. When she turns to me, I take a breath. I'm here because I feel invisible in my marriage. I'm here because the man I married used to ask me what I thought about things, and somewhere along the way, he stopped. And I'm here because I realize that if I don't stand up for myself now, I'm going to spend the rest of my life slowly disappearing. Dr. Reeves nods. "Jessica, when did you start feeling invisible?" I think about it. Honestly, when Carol moved in, and then it accelerated when Brandon bought the apartment. Because the apartment wasn't just about his mother, it was a statement about the kind of marriage he wanted, one where he makes decisions and I accept them. "Brandon, what do you think about what Jessica just said?" He's quiet for a long time. "I think she's right," he says finally. "I think I've been treating her like she's supposed to just be okay with whatever I decide. And I don't know why I do that, but I think it's because my father used to do it to my mother, and she just accepted it, and I thought that was normal." This is new information. This is the kind of thing that actually matters. Over the next 6 weeks, we go to counseling every Tuesday. We talk about his childhood. We talk about my need for partnership and his tendency toward unilateral decision-making. We talk about sex, which has been non-existent since Carol moved in. We talk about money and power and the ways we've been failing each other. It's not easy. There are sessions where we don't speak to each other in the car on the way home. There are sessions where I cry so hard I can barely breathe. There are sessions where Brandon gets defensive and angry. But slowly, something shifts. He starts asking me about things, small things at first, what I want for dinner, whether I like the paint color he's considering for the guest room. But then, bigger things. He tells his boss he needs to cut back on hours so he can be more present. He stops checking his phone during family dinner. In the 8th week, he brings something to session. "I've been thinking about what to do with the apartment," he tells Dr. Reeves, "and I've decided I want to sell it." I look at him, shocked. "It was a mistake," he continues. "I bought it for the wrong reasons. I thought it would solve the problem with my mother, but really, it was a way to avoid dealing with the actual problem, which was my marriage. I want to sell it and use the money to pay down our mortgage. I want us to be in better financial shape, so Jessica doesn't have to worry about money." "How do you feel about that, Jessica?" Dr. Reeves asks. "I feel like he's finally hearing me," I say, and I mean it. The apartment sells 3 months later for $2.3 million. After the realtor fees and closing costs, we net about 2.1. Brandon transfers the money into a joint account and gives me full control over how we use it. We pay down the mortgage by $800,000. I don't file for divorce. The asset freeze is lifted. We start looking like a normal family again, but different. Better, maybe. Harder won. Carol eventually gets angry about losing her new place, but by then, she's already signed a lease on a small condo closer to the city. Brandon sets her up with some monthly support, and there are clear boundaries about how often she can visit. She doesn't like it, but she accepts it, because Brandon finally learned how to have difficult conversations. A year later, Brandon and I renew our vows in our backyard. It's small, just close friends and family. Emma is my maid of honor, and Lucas is the ring bearer. We write our own vows, and when Brandon gets to the part about partnership and listening and seeing me, he cries. I cry too, but for different reasons. Because I finally feel like I married the right person. Because he finally learned to be the partner I needed. Because sometimes, the marriage that almost ends is the one that's actually worth saving. We're not perfect. We still fight. We still disagree about money sometimes. But now when we do, we actually talk about it. We actually listen. And that changes everything. The woman I am now, the one who has a voice, who knows her worth, who won't disappear to keep peace, she's not a stranger to my marriage. She's the foundation it's finally built on.